A marriage ceremony is a special event of life in which two people come closer to each other. Marriage is a relationship in which the husband and wife promise to be with each other forever and support each other in every sorrow. But the special event wasn't as special for me. Marriage is a relationship which is based on emotions. Emotional intimacy is a connection that beyond the physical two individuals are emotionally, mentally, and it would be better to say spiritually attached. They share their feelings, thoughts and love with each other without any restriction. A successful marriage is one in which the husband and wife identify each other and the relationship begins to break down when one person wants to return to his or her own identity. Gaining back the sense of individual identity makes your relationship toxic. I'm such a type of person who family believes in what I told you, but I did not get a loving, emotional and trustworthy relationship with my wife. Hello guys. My name is William and I live in Houston today. I'll share with you the heartbroken story of my life. I tried my best to save my married life as much as possible and did my best so that I could love my wife and maintain the relationship honestly. But all my efforts went in vain. If you like my story, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I belong to a respectable family. My father was a soldier and died in a search operation when I was a child. My parents had two sons. My elder brother and I. His name was Thomas and he died due to severe illness when he was 17 years old. After his death, my mother and I became alone. My mother brought me up very well. For me, she is my best friend. Her command is the most important to me. I love my mother very much and she also loves me. Her love for me enhances after the death of my brother. It will not be wrong to say that after the death of my brother, I also received history of love from my mother. I lived a good life since childhood. I always had all the things I needed. My mother fulfilled my every wish for which I asked her. I studied in a good school and college. I never faced such a problem that made me feel hopeless. My mother raised me like a prince and she also was the queen of my life. Our house was very beautiful and big and the upper portion was always weakened when my brother was alive. We used to have a tenant in that position. But after brother's death, we never go to any tenant again. Now, my studies were completed and I got a job in a very good company. But that company was so far away from my house that it took me many hours to come and go. After starting my job, my mother was left alone in the house and I was out of the house all day. So my mother thought of getting a tenant again. We got a tenant. After 2 days of giving advertisement, she was a 22-years-old young girl who was very beautiful in appearance and her manner seemed to be from a good family. Her name was Emma. My mother always wanted a daughter but we were only 2 sons of her. She always gets attracted towards baby girls. Emma was such a good girl and my mother started to love her like her daughter. In a few days, Emma was also an orphan. Her parents died when she was a child. She was raised in an orphanage. My mother and Emma became good friends. Their interests were similar and they both loved to spend time with each other. And it's true. She was such a nice girl and my mother also has such a friendly nature. Every night when I came back from work, my mother praised Emma and said that if I had a daughter, she would be exactly like her. And then slowly her words started to change and she said that if I had a daughter-in-law, it would be exactly like her. But my mother knew very well that I liked another girl. Since college days. The girl was also introduced to my mother, but she did not like my girlfriend much, but I loved her very much and wanted to marry her. But my mother never forced me to leave her. It had been 2 whole weeks since Emma was staying at our house. But I had not talked to her. Even for 5 minutes. I must have seen her sometimes leaving the house or sometimes coming but never talking to her. I couldn't get free time because I used to leave home from my job in the morning and came back at night. She was also an office-going girl. One day I was on leave and my mother was not at home. She went to meet her childhood friend near the town. Whenever she used to visit her friend, she would spend hours with her and came back at night. This was her routine since my childhood and I knew her habit very well. She was a very good friend of my mother and they both knew each other's secrets. My mother used to visit her after every 2 months. On that day, Emma came to our house to meet my mother, but she was not at home and was the day when I talked to her after talking to her for hours. I realized everything my mother said about her was true. She was really a nice girl and I really enjoyed talking to her and felt comfortable enough. We became friends in just a few hours. When my mother came back at night and saw us together, she became very happy. Then we had dinner together and watched a movie together. These days, my relationship with my girlfriend was not going well. Maybe she started liking someone else or there was some other reason. I don't know, but she started fighting with me on every little thing and our relationship suffered a lot of misunderstandings. Those days, there was another reason for our misunderstandings, a lot of distance between us. She lived in another city and I lived in another city and it was a whole year. We did not meet each other. Apart from all, my mother's attitude towards my girl was always bothering her. And she used to say only one thing to me, that my mother doesn't like her, and not only did my mother not like her, her family did not like me very much either. And maybe we were just as time not to meet, many such small things started quarreling between us. And one day she told me to break up. It is true that during those days, we were having very much quarreling with each other. But when my girlfriend left me, I felt very bad because I loved her. Besides this, I accepted the reality and moved on. After 2 months of my relationship, when I had control of myself enough and moved on, my mother realized that I no longer had a girl in my life, nor did I have any regrets about my breakup. Then my mother expressed her desire for me and said that she wants me to marry Emma. She was a very good girl, but I never liked her as a life partner. So first I refused. My mother became angry with me. And on her insistence, I agreed, but I wanted to know Emma's feelings. My mother told me she's also ready to marry me. So we got married. It looks like a simple marriage. But I promised myself that I'll be loyal with this relationship and also wanted the same emotions from my wife. But on the first night of our marriage, she said something horrible. She said I liked a guy very much and we were going to get married. But a week before the wedding, he left her and went somewhere. She had already told my mother about her ex. But my mother did not mention it to me, while she made me very angry with her. But I controlled myself because I too would have liked someone else. First, one thing I liked about my wife is that she told me all the truth on the first day and promised me that she would be honest with me. She just wanted some time and we both swore to each other and promised that we will be honest with each other and love each other a lot. No third one will ever come between us. I was keeping my promise very well and she was keeping her promise very well. We both were living a beautiful life. I started to love her very much and somewhere she also liked me. And one day she expressed her feelings at this stage. I am convinced that my wife loved me very much. And now she has no love left in her heart for her ex-boyfriend. But this trust was not long-lasting. After a few months of marriage, my happiness started to fade away. My wife started to demand money for shopping, but she was never very keen on shopping before and she never used to ask me for money. So suddenly I felt a bit strange about her shopping and asking me for money. But I thought that maybe she started loving me now, she got used to me. And that's why she is asking me for money, considering it's her right. But when I asked her what she has spot, she always said that my plan to go shopping was cancelled and sometimes saying that I am not feeling well. That's why I couldn't go shopping. This was going on continuously for 3 months and she was taking a lot of money from me. I'm not such a missive person. But her demand for money every week started to bother me. My wife had taken $1,000 from me for shopping in just 3 months besides her demand for money. One thing was also weird about her strange Google searches. One day I opened my laptop and saw there was research about how to get a visa for different countries. And a while ago, my wife was using my laptop and she was looking at how the visa application process is done in different countries and getting all the information about it. When I opened the history, there were so many things which were strange and annoying for me. My wife was getting information about different countries but mostly about Vietnam. When I asked my wife, why is she doing all this searching? She said that I want both of us to go to this country. She wanted to go to this country for vacation. My wife's innocent wish was very dear to me. So I determined that I'll fulfill her wish once in my life. But my wife was doing such horrible things behind my back. One day I opened my wife's phone, not for particular purpose. I saw my wife was searching how to get rid of from my husband. When I opened the history, there were many videos that she had watched that showed many ways to leave her husband. All these Google searches of my wife and her asking for a lot of money every week for shopping and then not going shopping made me suspicious of my wife. So I started investigating her. I started checking my wife's phone regularly, but I never found anything special except those strange Google searches that would be useful for me against my wife. But one day when my wife asked me for money for shopping, I did not make her feel at all like I was suspicious of her actions or that I was tired of giving her money anymore. I gave her some money. And when she left the house for shopping, I followed her. I thought that instead of going shopping, my wife went to a restaurant. When I entered, I saw my wife met a boy and then they both sat in the car and left. I saw them both, I started following them. So both of them stepped outside the house. And after a while both of them entered the house. After some time, I went near the house, I saw that the door of the house was opened. Maybe my luck was good enough. I entered. There was nothing in the bottom portion. The entire portion was empty, but there were some sounds coming from the upper portion from which I came to know that my wife and that person are upstairs. I slowly went up the stairs and secretly watched her. My wife and that man were sitting on the couch very close to each other. My wife said both of us will go to another country with this money that I have collected and live a quiet life. After hearing this from my wife, the man said that if your husband finds out that you want to divorce him, he would not kill you. My wife said it will not happen. I will not tell my husband that I am leaving him forever. I will blind him into believing that I love him. And one day suddenly leave his house. I felt that I might have lost somewhere. I always have a gun in my car, which I had to avoid bad times. After hearing all this, I immediately went back in anger and dropped that gun from my car and put it on my wife's head. I just wanted to kill. Her wife was surprised to see me there. She found out that I had found out about her nefarious plans. My wife of her partner immediately ran away from there and I tried to catch him, but he had already left. Then I asked my wife if you were unfaithful to me for the sake of the person who did not take a moment to leave you. My wife started crying and begging me for forgiveness. But now I started hating her so much that I don't even want to see her in front of my eyes. My wife told me that this was the guy she loved and he left her a week before the wedding. But now when he came back, he apologized to her when he returned. Her love for that person rekindled in her heart. And she again came to his words. All the money that she had collected was in her bag. I took the money out of her bag and left her there and returned home. I told my mother about this whole incident. She started apologizing to me that she chose the wrong girl for me. I divorced my wife. But the affair partner also left my wife for home. She was cheating me because he was with her only for money. And when he found out that I had left her and she has no money, he left her again and my wife was left alone. I love my mother, but her one wrong decision ruined my life. Maybe I'll never forgive her for her wrong decisions which she made for me. Marriage is a decision that a boy and girl should make for each other. Never marrying at someone else's request. I have learned this from my life's worst incident. Today I am spending a peaceful life with my mother and don't need any girl. I had never met my ex-wife after divorcing her, but she often calls me.